Should you sell everything right now? How should you take profits during this bull run? Right here, I want to show you that in 2013, I was buying Bitcoin for as low as $76 a Bitcoin, and Ethereum I was buying right here for under $13 in ETH. I should be really, really rich now, but I'm not. And I'm going to show you exactly my mistakes, what I wish I would have known back then, and ultimately how to prepare for this insane, life-changing bull run that we are on right now in crypto. I'm going to share with you a couple charts, including the ones here, and also how to exit your altcoin and possibly Bitcoin positions. Because at the end of the day, you do not want to do what I was doing back in 2013 with Bitcoin and ETH. I was really messing up, as you can see here. I was buying incredibly low and then even selling my Bitcoin and ETH for a loss, which you're like, Aaron, how could you be that dumb? Well, we didn't know what we had back then. Now we are very clear what Bitcoin and ETH and other altcoins are. There's a recent interview from Larry Fink basically saying that Bitcoin is a safe haven asset, better than gold, and he is one of the biggest, if not the biggest money manager in the entire world. So it is a different world right now. And back again in 2013, I was a moron. I'm going to share with you what I wish I knew back then. And if you're new to crypto, if this is your first or second cycle, you definitely want to know. The first thing that's very important before we start looking at the market cycles and about how to time the market is this. You are not a trader. You do not have decades of experience, and you are not going to perfectly time the market. That is literally impossible. You are not going to be right here, November 9th, 2021, and be, oh, this is the top because my indicators say so, because some guy on YouTube says so, because the people I follow on Twitter say it's the top. I'm going to sell everything right now. Oh, look, the price is 16,000. I'm going to buy in again. That's not going to happen. So it's important to remember that that is not going to happen. You are not going to be able to time the top. And it's about knowing how to get out alive, keeping some profits, and figuring out what your end goals are in this cycle. Another thing to be aware of, again, before I get into these other charts and also about how to scale out of your altcoin positions, is understanding that we are going to experience several extreme drops in volatility. In 2017, we had several drops of 20 and 30% in a matter of days. Just right here, this little blip, we went from $4,800 August 31st to just like 14 days later, $3,000. That is a massive dip, 5,000 to 3,000 in a couple of weeks. So expect that kind of volatility and don't let it shake you out of your positions. Now, before I dive into more, there are two types of people. There's the kind of person that wants to make US dollar profits. There are the people that want US dollars. Maybe they want to pay off their house. Maybe you want to pay off credit cards. Maybe you want a new car, whatever you want to do is totally fine. The people that want US dollars are trying to sell and trade crypto and maximize their US dollar holdings at the end of this bull market, which, by the way, this bull market will end. I do not think we are on some insane super cycle. I'll share my Bitcoin predictions down the road a little bit later in this video about where I think it's going to go, but I do not think that Bitcoin is going to skyrocket to $10 million over the next 1 to 2 years. I really don't believe that's going to happen. And that means there will be an insane drop and bear market. So you do want to make sure you know your goal. Do you want to maximize the amount of Bitcoin that you have, or do you want to maximize the amount of US dollars that you have? Now, personally, myself, I am not planning on selling any Bitcoin. I'm just being straight up. I'm not planning on selling any of my Bitcoin because I believe Bitcoin is going to literally gobble up the market cap of gold and other store of value assets. I believe Bitcoin will eventually go to $1 million. So for me to try again to time the market like I failed to do back in 2013, clearly failed to do with Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'm not going to try to time the market with Bitcoin because I want to get as much Bitcoin as possible. That's my goal. You may have a different goal and that's fine, but it's important for you to understand what you are going to sell and what you want to accumulate more of. If you are a massive believer in Bitcoin over the next 5 to 10 years and you have the luxury of waiting through volatility, then it may not be a bad idea to literally never sell your Bitcoin. But selling altcoins is something that I definitely plan on doing and will do. So this first chart I want to take a look at from Into the Cryptoverse, 10% off if you use the link below. Right here, we are this magenta line, and we are tracking the previous 2 cycles in terms of the ROI, return on investment, since we hit rock bottom. Since Bitcoin hit hit rock bottom. Where are we? And we're actually a little bit higher than these other two cycles right here, the green and yellow lines. But ultimately, I believe that unless we go into some massive recession or there's some insane black swan event, which could happen, I believe that Bitcoin still has a long way to go, well over $100,000, even into the $200,000, maybe $300,000 range. And whatever Bitcoin does, Ethereum follows. And after Ethereum, we can move into these smaller cap altcoins, like possibly gaming coins, possibly meme coins like we're seeing recently, and all of these other smaller cap coins. So focusing on what Bitcoin does will then translate into the altcoin market. At least it has in the past, and I do think personally it will continue this cycle. And currently we have about 38 days until the next Bitcoin halving, which historically positively impacts the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up, and altcoins go up. And here's a chart that shows the Bitcoin ROI after the halving. So this would be after about 38 days from now. And historically, we can see here the price of Bitcoin does a massive rally after the halving. So the third cycle, which would be the last one that ended in 2021, we saw Bitcoin do around an 8x or just under an 8x from the halving to the peak of the market cycle. And that is really, really cool. So right now, Bitcoin is sitting at around $60,000 or so. You multiply that by 8, you are over a $400,000 Bitcoin. So that's why myself and others may not want to sell our Bitcoin, because I think the price is going to go much higher than what it is now. And also, I believe it's actually going to do very, very well over the next 5 to 10 years. But how I fumbled my bags in 2013 with Bitcoin and ETH, I don't want you to do the same. So I've learned a lot of lessons. The biggest lesson for me personally is to never sell my Bitcoin. But another big lesson is to sell my altcoins. So how am I looking into selling my altcoin positions? Now, in a Bitcoin bull market, it really doesn't matter what altcoins you hold. In my experience, they will cycle from the different categories, the different kinds of altcoins. You can see that CoinGecko has some different categories like meme coins, NFTs, dog theme coins. We have governance, layer 2s, and honestly, it really doesn't matter. There could be some big narratives. A lot of other YouTubers and influencers are very, very bullish on gaming this cycle, which has done well and could do incredibly well the next cycle. It really doesn't matter. I think all of these different categories of altcoins will pump quite a bit. So I want to talk about selling altcoins and show you exactly how to go about doing so with the exit strategies page on Into the Cryptoverse. Before I do so, I want to talk about this, the MVRV score. So this is a chart that Elio Trades commented on in a recent video on YouTube. Basically, what this does is it compares the market value and realized value in order to assess when the market is either overvalued or undervalued. For Bitcoin, buying during the Z-score when it's less than 0 has historically always been a good choice. So right here, there was a period when it was under 0, and that's when the price of Bitcoin was very low at the end of 2022. Likewise, it's good for selling Bitcoin when the Z-score is above 6. You can see here that we are still relatively low. This isn't a perfect metric, but if the price of Bitcoin gets to be sky high and goes above 6, and if I have not begun to sell altcoins, that would be a very, very clear sign that I should begin. Right here, the logarithmic regression bands for Bitcoin, it's still not in bubble territory. Once it starts hitting these red lines, and especially if it really crosses the red line, that would also be a good time to begin, if you have not already, selling altcoin positions. So let's talk about selling altcoin positions and how I am approaching it myself. So taking a look at Solana as an example regarding its risk level. So right now we are around a 0.7 or so in the risk bands. Now, what the hell does this mean? Well, it shows you right here, time in risk bands. And if I go to Solana right here, this is the amount of time in totality that each altcoin spends in certain risk levels. So as the certain altcoin gets higher up in the risk bands, it is a good idea in general to begin selling your altcoins, a reverse DCA strategy. So right here, this is how to exit altcoin positions by selling sequentially as it gets more risky. And it allows you to not get emotional, because what usually happens from experience is that when the prices go higher and higher, you move the goalpost of when you're going to sell. You're like, no, I'm not going to sell now. It can keep going up. And it looks really bullish. I'm not going to start selling. I'm going to wait until it goes another 20% higher or 100% higher, and then I'll start selling my positions. That's never a good idea to get emotional. When you start getting emotional is when it's usually a good idea to begin selling. From my experience, being in Bitcoin and ETH since 2013 or so. It's been a very, very long time since I've been in this market. So taking a look at Solana, this is an example of how you could begin to sell. So right now, the current price of SOL is $138. And hypothetically, if you wanted to start selling your Solana, you could do so by following one of these risk tolerance levels. So if you wanted to be pretty aggressive right here, the hodler, you would sell 17% of however much SOL you want to sell. Let's say you want to sell 100% of your altcoins, which honestly is not a bad idea. Maybe you want to save 10% in case it goes parabolic. But selling the majority of your altcoins historically has been a pretty good idea because you don't want to see your altcoins go down 90% during the bear market. It really is depressing. So in this example, you would sell 17% of your SOL. You actually would have already sold it due to the current price. And then you would sell 33% of your SOL at $211, and then 50% of your SOL at $337. What you can also do here, which could make a lot of sense, let's say you have 100 SOL, but you just want to sell 80% of it. So you're just going to sell 80 of your Solana tokens. That would mean at the 0.85 risk band, you would sell 33% of your SOL, or 26.67, as you can see right here on the screen, when the price of Solana hits $211. You would then sell 40 SOL, or 50% of what you wanted to sell, when Solana hit $337. Now, this is based on these historical risk bands like I showed you right here. So for Solana, time and risk bands, I go right here. Once we get higher up into these risk bands, 0.8, 0.9, there is less time that these altcoins hang out in these risk bands. So that's why we take profits as the price goes up. Now, these risk bands may not work in this cycle. There's no guarantee that this will be effective. But as the prices keep going up, it's usually a good idea to sell. You could also use a projected price. So for example, let's say you think Solana is going to go to $1,000. Let's say it's going to do, I guess that would be like an 8x or so from where it is right now. Well, in that case, if you wanted to sell 80 SOL tokens, you would then sell 13 of those SOL tokens at $310, 26 of those tokens at $494, and then 40 of those SOL tokens, or 50%, at $790. If you believe there is a projected price that you think any altcoin is going to hit, right here you can pick your altcoin, you could then type that in and then it'll tell you based on the risk bands how much at each price you should sell. Now, super important that if you're going to follow this strategy, you do want to actually learn how to click the sell button, because it's super hard to sell when the price is going up. Trust me, trust me, trust me. It's so freaking hard to do so. Now, this website does not have every single altcoin. So if you are holding some of these really small cap gaming coins, or you're holding some really obscure altcoin, you are going to have to kind of do your best to figure out what times to sell. Now, a lot of people are pretty burned from the last cycle. If you were involved in Bitcoin during 2021, we all thought that Bitcoin was going to go to $100,000, and very few people sold their Bitcoin, and most people just held their Bitcoin all the way down to $16,000. So nobody can really predict the price of Bitcoin this cycle. I personally think it's going to go quite high. We are seeing some enormous players in the financial space getting very, very bullish on the price of Bitcoin. BlackRock's Larry Fink says Bitcoin is like digital gold. I mean, maybe he'll dump on our heads and sell. Maybe he won't. Maybe he wants to ride the price all the way to $1 million. We really don't know what's inside of Larry Fink's head right now, but you need to kind of figure out what your goals are here. If your goals are more Bitcoin, then as altcoins rise, you would sell your altcoins to Bitcoin. If you want US dollars, you would then have to sell to US dollars, USDC, cash out, and then send it to your bank account maybe. And I'll finish the video with this, that I saw a tweet from Alex Becker, who's a really big YouTuber, talks about crypto and all sorts of stuff. He says something very interesting. He said that in this cycle, you shouldn't try to get massively rich. Like, you shouldn't try to become like a $10 million net worth and just become this enormously rich person. Your goal is freedom. And I would agree with this. He talks about that you want enough money where you maybe don't have to work and then you can take more risks with your money. He says in his tweet that maybe you want to accumulate $1 million and then the current money market rate, you're getting 5% of that. Maybe you can create a life where $50,000 equals freedom. That means that any additional money you can take more risks with, and you aren't worried about paying rent, putting food on the table, and survival. This is a really, really interesting take, and I do actually agree with it. I think a lot of people get way too bullish, and they're thinking about like, this is the only time I'm going to have generational wealth. And ultimately, I think creating freedom is a higher goal that most people should focus on. And ultimately, acquiring $1 million, is not an easy task, especially if you're starting with very, very little. But I would just want to end the video with this. You really need to define your goals. If that's buying a house, cool. Cash out when you can buy a house. Buying a car, college funds, whatever. You need to figure that out for yourself. I think that Bitcoin's going to go well above $100,000, probably to $200,000 to $300,000 this cycle. I could be wrong. And then I could be holding the bag if Bitcoin drops from, let's say, $150,000 down to $40,000. I don't know what's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I think that Bitcoin is going to go to $250K. If Bitcoin doesn't, then I will hold the bag of my Bitcoin holdings. But I think it's important for myself to sell altcoins as you're in profit. As Rob says on Digital Asset News, his YouTube station, nobody ever got broke taking profits. And that is accurate. And a big question is, do you want profits in US dollars where they are continually printing endlessly, basically devaluing your money? Or do you want to take profits in Bitcoin where there's just 21 million that'll ever be in circulation? And that is for you to decide. I am in the Bitcoin camp. I would like to acquire Bitcoin. I see very clearly the purchasing power of US dollars. We all see it. It is being diminished. Unless you need the money again to purchase something, if it's for survival, if you have specific US dollar goals, please cash out and buy that and make your life better. I mean, I think that's incredibly important. I'm not understating that at all. You want to do well in this bull market. You want to not hold the bags when we potentially go down 80% in the next bear market, maybe 90%. So how you take profits, up to you. Where you think the price of Bitcoin goes, up to you. If you want to be more conservative, if you're in profit right now and you're in profit in a lot of your altcoins and maybe Bitcoin, be my guest to take profits. That is for you to decide, because I'll tell you what, I'll finish the video with this. Every single YouTuber, every single person on Twitter, everybody was wrong. Or if they were right one time, they're wrong another 10 times. And then these people only tell you the times that they were right, and they selectively share their wins with you and don't share when they completely miss the call. You know how many people on YouTube and Twitter said that we were going down to $10,000? Pretty much everybody. Everybody thought right here, we were going down. We were going down to $10,000, $11,000. We never did. You know, there are still people that don't have any exposure to Bitcoin or crypto because they never bought at 16 because they thought they were going down to 10. A lot of people. There are people that have been shorting Bitcoin all the way up that have been absolutely wrecked and have been liquidated. A lot of people. So it's important for you to ultimately decide how you want to take profits, at what dollar points you want to take profits. And if you're already in profit now on certain altcoins or certain positions, I'm not going to tell you to not take profits. I think it's very important to do so. And it's very important that if you are sitting on life-changing money, to literally realize those gains, either in US dollars or in Bitcoin, if you are a long-term believer in the price of Bitcoin like I am. So guys, I'll end the video there. Thanks for watching. Into the cryptoverse, those are the charts that I showed in this video. I have a 10% off link if you want to pick those up. Also, if you need a hardware wallet, you can use Tangem. Tangem is one that I've been using for a while. Basically, they give you 2 or 3 cards. I prefer the 3-card set, and they look like this, and they literally connect to your phone, and they allow you to transact and keep your crypto safe. So links below for that as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, talk with you soon, and bye for now.